Hello, everyone. My name is Rebecca Morton. My pronouns are she, her. I'm the artist and studio manager here at Baltimore Clayworks, and we are thrilled that you have all joined us. I would like to acknowledge that I'm joining from my office located on Piscataway and Susquehannock land, currently known as Baltimore, Maryland. It is my pleasure to welcome you to our virtual studio tour given today by Victoria Walton. They have been a short-term resident since September. Victoria Walton, born 1994, is an emerging visual artist based in Baltimore. They have an MFA in ceramic art from the New York State College of Ceramics at Alfred University and a BFA with a focus in ceramics from Towson University. Victoria explores the wonder and complexity of Black identity, creating large-scale sculptures and video works that center the narratives of women and gender-expansive people. Walton draws from their own life, reflecting on the intersection of identities and ongoing battle with their health. They further investigate the impact that historic societal factors and personal experiences have on the individual and the Black community, making multi-layered connections between clay and the body. For more information about their artist talks, please visit our virtual library at baltimoreclayworks.org. And I will now turn it over to Victoria.
Hi, everyone. So I'm Victoria Walton. I also go by V Walton, and thank you so much for joining us today. I'm really, this is like the culmination of my residency. And so I first want to say thank you to Baltimore Clayworks. I've had a wonderful time being the short-term resident here. And for people that aren't familiar with my practice, my first degree in ceramics was at Towson University. So I've been here local in the area for a few years now. And so coming back to Baltimore Clayworks after my MFA has been a real like full circle experience. And it's been good to be back home. It's been really nice. And so through the studio visit, I'm just gonna talk through some of my ideas that I've been investigating, how it's been showing up materially, and then also what I'm looking forward to doing in the future. Before my residency, I had completed, I had just received my MFA from Alfred University and had just made a really large body of work. And that work was relating to being a Black person at the intersection of race, queer identity, and then also disability. And so how that pivots them against mainstream society, and also how does one navigate the world and how does one connect to themselves. And just knowing that all of those identities are natural and integral, right, to being alive. So I've been exploring these really intense intense dialogues around the figure and working at a large scale. And so after finishing that body of work, I really wanted to settle and also just figure out what direction do I really want to go in, and how does my scale need to shift. And so I was trying to reconcile my relationship to still wanting to make large scale naturalistic work, and then also giving myself freedom and space to explore making more abstract figuration, and also to kind of lean into a different direction. So I started thinking about intimacy within like the Black queer trans experience. And so as someone who is not only queer, but I'm also genderqueer, I have no true preferred pronouns. And so as someone with these identities who's also in a relationship with someone who has a similar identity, I've been really thinking about the nurturing aspects of that relationship, and also the comfort that I found like building a life with someone who has that shared experience, and that also just kind of extending outwards is like, how are Black um, people in this community, how are we relating to each other? Like, how can I start to talk about like these moments of intimacy or these moments of safety? And so I've kind of played with a few different ideas of that. And so we'll kind of start here. So this is one of my more recent works. A title that's come to me for this piece is called Together Together, which is kind of highlighting on slang. Like, so when some, like, in the Black community, when two people are like dating is for real, it's like, oh no, we together together. And so I started to just think about, how can I have two figures, but then really start to abstract and also have parts that are really amorphous, parts that are really like less defined and almost, and start to like have the body connect in ways that are not anatomical. And so in the last year and a half, I've really enjoyed coil building the figure. And so these large coils, I've started doing these bands and arches in my work at times. And this is one piece where I just decided to give myself the freedom to continue in that repetition. And it almost made this web. I just found myself kind of making this tapestry of coils as well as kind of in this way. And something in my work that I've been doing as well, texture is very important to me. um i'm I'm not an advocate of perfection. I really believe in asymmetry and just nothing in life is perfect, right? And so whether it's decay, whether it's loss, whether it's just actually resembling earth, um, or organic influences in my work have become really, really important. So when I make this texture, a lot of the time I'm just thinking about soil, and how the body returns to soil, and kind of thinking about just the origins of the material I'm even working with. And so I started to add this texture to really finish this webbing of coiling, and also bring that texture onto the body. And so here there's almost like a nestle from, like, there's a sacred, there's a space, and within this cavity that only these two individuals have access, that these two individuals are creating, right? And so I this piece was just a really I guess the beginning of me starting to explore, like, how can I show intimacy that's not necessarily sensual, that's not necessarily extremely literal, but it's more subjective and suggestive, and kind of allows your mind to go there. And so I really enjoy making this piece. And also something that I'm investigating too is, how do I scale my work? How can I um make work that not is necessarily to life size scale, or also takes a lot of equipment to move and things of that nature. And so I've been finding myself along this realm, and I've been really enjoying it. Something for me also that I'm playing around with is that I'm always thinking within my palette, skin tone is important to me. But I'm also not trying to be very literal about it. I'm really thinking about tone, but then I'm also kind of playing around with although there's these organic influences in my work, I'm also playing around with the idea of the bronze figure and the idea of the monument and permanent sculpt and like this fixed sculpture. And so I have been leaning into this metallic palette as well, and it's been like coming out in moments. But it's, to me, when I think of this metallic, I think about permanence, and so that's kind of how it's been coming out for me. And then I have this piece, which is also a more similar scale to that, and also I'm really playing around the loops here, and these, I guess I would call them loops, or these arches. And I like leaving my impression on the pieces I make. Like I really don't try to smooth out the the um the the details of the marking of the creation of the work. And so for me, it was also just figuring out a different orientation for this couple to sit in, but then also just bringing back in the some of the really the core importance of my work to me. Not only is it highlighting queer identity, but also disability experiences of those in the disabled community. And so I've been making work referencing people that have had amputations or maybe amputees. And so this is a work where you might not realize it at first, but that is so with the figure on the left. And so it's something in my mind where I'm constantly trying to find ways to talk about disability in the visible sense, in a non-literal sense, because some disabilities are not visible, right? And then some where they are more overt and they have more physical disabilities. So I'm playing around with, not playing around, but I'm really trying to showcase the diversity of the disabled community within my work as well. So I really like the gesture of these two together. And for me, I'm excited to see how the glazing is going to come together on this one too. But the texture again comes through. Yeah, and mixed media, I allow myself to go wherever the piece needs to go. So I kind of just I start with an idea and I maybe glaze once or twice, but then if I feel like mixed media comes into play, cold finish needs to come into play, different materials need to come into play, that's what I do. And so I'm excited to see what happens with this one. I'm gonna save the largest piece for last. So this is one of my works from my graduate show. I make a series of vessels that resemble the figure, the abstracted body, and they're all in different types of nets. And so these nets are talking about the construction of the body, the construction of Black individuals and white society. And so I have a series of different of these vessels, different orientations and colors. And so for me, it's kind of like this endless play with how the vessels look, how I can arrange them, their texture, their surface. And so this one is a vessel in progress that, again, I want my work to have the same like spirit, the same influences, but I'm not stuck within repeating myself over and over again. I like to kind of break the mold on those things. So for this, I plan to do a barrel firing for this. I'm really excited, and to get like that smokiness coming through. but also I'm grappling with recently the ramifications of mining, of using the materials that we do. Um, um, and as an individual, I'm sorting through those feelings as I'm learning more. And so this piece really speaks to, for me, it's the beginning of speaking to broken earth, something being ripped out of the ground. I want to feel very visceral and painful, and not necessarily to have like answers to this question, but to begin to present an opportunity to ask questions. So I'm excited about this piece and what happens with it. So then I jump back to the scale I've been working at for the last 2 years. This kind of naturalistic life-size figuration, and this is in my mind supposed to be me. It's supposed to resemble how I present in society, and also the parts of me that are maybe hidden or invisible. And so I was like, how can I just try to talk about the genderqueer experience, and talk about expansiveness, and talk about big multitudes or many things at the same time in one piece. And so for me, I was playing around with just my own experiences, and I'm this idea of the double-headed, like this double-headed torso, was really appealing to me, and it it's very fresh in my mind, and I'm still digesting it, but I'm excited with where it with how it's developed, and I'm also excited to kind of push it further, to maybe make other versions as well, and to think about different surface treatments. But I'm really at the stage where I'm like working through my themes through various stages of abstraction. So where I'm kind of more like loose with the representation of the figure, where it's starting to get more literal, and then where it's become more naturalistic and very representational. And so um it's like that play and that freedom that I really am enjoying in my practice, particularly now that I'm outside of grad school. So I'm grateful for Clayworks, where I was able to explore all of these ideas.